Fill your dark soul with light!
Gamer Braves. What's up guys, this is One Emerald from Game Braves. Now, it's no secret that I love the Devil May Cry series. I think it sits at the top as one of the best character action games out there. And it's a good example of how Capcom just really gets what feels rewarding for players. We got to try out Devil May Cry Peak of Combat, which is a mobile game set in the Devil May Cry universe. Unfortunately for the game though, it's rough. Obviously, as a mobile games based site, we're not gonna go around slagging off every mobile game and calling it some cheap cash-in. But a lot of the problems with Devil May Cry Peak of Combat feel like it doesn't understand what Devil May Cry is supposed to be. At its best, it is a Honkai Impact knockoff, and not a very good one at that. It's a gacha game. You gacha for weapons which give new movesets to your characters. However, unlike in Devil May Cry where you will be switching between weapons constantly to do your best combos, that just isn't the case in Peak of Combat. You pick the weapon at the start of the mission and you stick with it for the whole game. And when I say you only get one weapon, I mean you only get one weapon. Dante will only ever have his swords, for example. You cannot switch between sword and gun combos, which is weird because that's what Devil May Cry is to so many people. It's doing high time into bullet juggles, into aerial raves. That's not even getting into the more advanced stuff like jump cancels. All of those are not in the game. Instead, you just have a simple basic combo, a special move button which is on a cooldown, another absurd thing to put in a Devil May Cry game, and then you have a sort of super. In Dante's case would be his Devil Trigger. It's a weird thing to put in a Devil May Cry game. Like, the only character in this game who feels like a Devil May Cry character is Lady, and her moveset is completely alien to her moveset in 4. That being said, at least her dodge button changes depending on how long your combo's been going. At 4 hits, she does this cool homing kick, and she honestly does feel the most Devil May Cry out of the 3 that you get. The free Virgil they gave you doesn't even have Yamato, he's using Beowulf of all things. Instead of Devil Trigger, he does the uppercut, and unlike Devil May Cry, there's no further things you can do with it. You can't pop a DT in the middle of it to do anything. Now, honestly, a lot of this is expecting too much from a mobile game, and I concede that, but I do think that shouldn't be an excuse from keeping this game true to its original essence. Skullgirls Mobile is a great example of a game that honestly is very different from its source material and yet still feels spiritually cohesive. It also looks almost exactly like its original game, which, you know, props to that game for doing that. Thankfully, there is some level of execution required in the game. Just like in Honkai Impact, you do have a perfect evasion, and you have these QTE skills where different characters have different conditions, and if you meet, they will tag in and do a cool attack. Those are all great that they're there, and they're a step in the right direction to making something feel like Devil May Cry. Admittedly though, the perfect dodge feels more out of Bayonetta than anything else, but what can you do? It's a mobile game. Still though, the most egregious thing it does is have a gear system. Like I said, you have to gacha for weapons. The weapons you get have movesets, and then you can go upgrade them using these totally generic looking upgrade crystals, and it's just not Devil May Cry. Like I said at the start of this, Devil May Cry is a game that knows how to reward players. The goal of a Devil May Cry game is not to increase your gear score or whatever. It is to buy more moves to do better combos so you can post it to Twitter and hope that Itsuno gives you that thumbs up of approval. That's just not the case in this game because combat feels so simple, and at the end of the day, all you're doing is just getting high level gear. I mean, Dante doesn't even use Rebellion at the start of the game. You get some boring generic sword instead. It's just a total buzzkill because Devil May Cry was one of those games where you finally didn't have to worry about all this nonsense like crafting and stuff. It was just do combo to get Rorbs, spend Rorbs on moves, do better combos. It was a perfect loop. Strangely enough, the one thing that it does carry over from the mainline games is the mission length. Missions feel weirdly long, and ordinarily I don't complain about them in Devil May Cry games because, again, the combat is fun, but here it just highlights to you how simple the combat is because at the end of the day there's not much you can do. Every enemy is just a matter of I'm just gonna do the basic combo, or maybe I'm gonna do Stinger, and it just doesn't feel good. The long levels just highlights that you don't actually have that much you can do. Yeah, you can switch between your characters on the fly, but at the end of the day, aside from Lady, none of them feel like they're doing anything particularly difficult to do. Weirder still is that the game does have an ad that says you can unlock Nero, and Nero is one of the most execution-heavy characters in the Devil May Cry game, and that just means that you already know he's not gonna be fun in this game. I'm happy to be proven wrong. Look, I really think there's room in the market for a Devil May Cry mobile game, but so far Peak of Combat just isn't that for me. Like, even if you take out all the idealism I have over what Devil May Cry should be, it just feels like a game that's chasing the fad of the many Honkai likes out there. And the worst part is, it doesn't even introduce anything new to the mix to make it feel fresh. Plus, because it's trying to go for the Devil May Cry 5 kind of art style, it's not exactly a very pretty game. Devil May Cry 5 was of course carried by the fact that it runs on the RE engine, which looks gorgeous. Not so much on a mobile title. Combine that with the long levels and you just get a game that feels like a chore to play, instead of the very compact and honestly fulfilling nature of the Devil May Cry game. There's been no official word on the game coming to the West, and hopefully it spends more time in the oven for this, because I honestly think they could be onto something special if they take it back to the drawing board for another run. Right now, it just doesn't scream like a game that's going to steal too much of your time. I honestly applaud the idea of trying to put more action games on mobile, because I think we really need them compared to, I don't know, Idle Battlers or whatever. This has been Watermill from Game Braves, and take care, guys. Hey there! Thank you so much for watching our videos. Don't forget to give us a subscribe if you'd like to see more, and like so we know what kind of content you want to see. Got suggestions for new content? Let us know in the comments below too. Thank you so much again for watching. Take care, dudes.